Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of True Crime with Kendall Rae. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you're new to the show, then welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. And make sure you click subscribe so you never miss an upload from me. So today, you guys, I'm going to be talking about a case where justice is right there, right within reach. And quite frankly, I'm shocked that she hasn't gotten it yet. It's really frustrating, but that actually seems to be a theme with a lot of the cases that I cover, right? It's one that certainly needs more awareness as this family pushes towards justice that I am very confident they are going to get. It's just taking a very long time. Today, I'm going to be telling you about the murder of 21-year-old Alexis Crawford, who was a college student living in Atlanta, Georgia, when her life was very suddenly taken from her. Her case is one of total betrayal by someone who she truly thought was her friend, and her family thought that she was her friend. It's just devastating the way that this happened. And honestly, cases like this just freak me out because it's a reminder that you never truly know who you can trust in life. And I don't say that to scare anyone, but God, I just cannot believe when things like this happen. It's just hard to wrap your mind around how anyone's friend could do this to them. But I do have to say, legally speaking, that the individuals I am talking about today are, of course, innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But I do think you're going to agree with me that the truth is crystal clear here. Before I dive in, though, I do need to thank today's sponsor, PDS Debt, because it's thanks to their support that we're able to continue funding grants through the Higher Hope Foundation. If you have experienced debt, you know how heavy of a burden it can be and how it can make hard times even harder. When my husband and I experienced debt in our early college days, we realized how suffocating it can truly be. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I wish back then we had access to PDS Debt. PDS Debt understands that your specific scenario is unique, and they provide alternative solutions to becoming debt-free. Whether you're struggling with credit cards, personal loans, or medical bills, PDS Debt has custom options to help you get out of debt. In fact, one of my viewers left a great review on their website, and I wanted to share it with you. It says, "I heard about PDS through Kendall Rae, and it came right on time. Robert was very thorough and kind while walking me through the process. Debt can be a really overwhelming thing to conquer, but I'm grateful for this program and Robert's professionalism." And I've seen so many of you comment that PDS Debt has been great for you, and I love hearing that it's been helpful for you because I know how relieving it is to finally find something that works. PDS Debt is really here to help you save more, pay off your debt faster, and start putting money back where it belongs, in your pocket. Plus, there's no minimum credit score required. Don't wait for debt to strike again. Break free in 30 seconds. Get your free personalized assessment and best option for you at pdsdebt.com/kr. That's pdsdebt.com/kr. pdsdebt.com/kr. Big thanks again to PDS Debt. And also, really quickly, I just wanted to share that Higher Hope's 2025 Impact Report is available on our website for you to check out if you want to see everything that we did in 2025. I'm so proud of everything that we accomplished last year, and this report will really give you guys an in-depth look at everything that we achieved, and it's very transparent about how every dollar was spent and where it came from. And I just have to say, I am really wowed by how much we were able to do in our first full year. Of course, we launched in 2024, but midway through the year. So 2025 was our first full year, and it was such a great experience. I connected with so many wonderful people. I got to attend a conference called COVA here in Colorado through the foundation, and that was really special. We also got to represent Higher Hope at CrimeCon last year, and then just all of the families that we've been able to connect with and help them out in their time of need has been really special. And of course, all of the nonprofits that we have connected with and helped as well. It's been really cool to learn about what they do and meet all the wonderful people who work for those organizations. In 2025, we were able to fund 37 grants and disperse over $250,000 in grants, sponsorships, and community projects. And I hope you guys know that none of this would have been possible without your support. Every single time you listen to or watch an episode of any of our shows, it makes a huge difference for us, and not just in the last year, but for years beyond that. Some of you have been here supporting us for a really long time, and I am so, so grateful. We have really been able to offer so much hope, and it has been really inspiring to me and my whole team. And I'm looking forward to what 2026 has in store. But anyway, let's get into Alexis's case because, like I said, she is one of the many victims who is still awaiting justice. Her full name is Alexis Janae Crawford, and she was born in Athens, Georgia on December 23rd, 1997, and she was one of 10 children to her parents, Tammy and Bobby. And from what I've been able to gather, family meant everything to Alexis. Now, she was often called Lex by those who were closest to her. I'm going to be referring to her as Alexis, but she was extremely tight-knit with her parents, her siblings, and she also had really built a network of friends that were like a family to her too. One friend of hers said that they used to daydream about getting rich and buying beautiful houses, and another said that no matter the circumstance, Alexis always made sure that those around her were taken care of. She was known for her loyalty, her kindness, how affectionate and fun she could be, and as someone who just lived her life without fear. And I definitely can't forget about religion. Religion was super important to Alexis and really her whole family, actually. Her faith was for sure something that just played a massive role in shaping the woman that she became. And it also sounds like her dad, Bobby, played a big role in shaping her as well. He worked in law enforcement, and so he sort of taught her how to have a strong sense of what's right and what's wrong in life. And she was so passionate about that, in fact, that after graduating from high school in 2016, she went on to college at Clark Atlanta University to study sociology and criminal justice with a dream of becoming a lawyer one day. And that dream was well in reach for her. Alexis was a very hardworking person, and if there was something that she set her mind to, you better believe that she was going to achieve it. And by October of 2019, she was getting there. By then, she was 21 years old. She was a senior in college. Graduation wasn't too far away. And I'm sure a lot of you know what this time in life can feel like when you're close to graduating either college or high school or whatever it may be, and you're at almost to the end of a chapter, ready to start a new era of your life. The future is unwritten, it's exciting, it's unknown. But for Alexis, this chapter of her life, which was supposed to be filled with promise and excitement for what was going to come in the next chapter, came to a devastating end. According to her loved ones, October 30th, 2019 seemed to be like any other day. Everything was totally normal. Alexis's mom, Tammy, and one of her sisters, Monica, as well, spoke with Alexis on FaceTime. And their memory was that nothing appeared out of the ordinary. Tammy said that Alexis seemed to be in good spirits, and Monica said that she even asked if she could cash out her some money, which she did. And just so you know, that wasn't anything that's been noted as strange. I mean, she was a college student asking her own parent for a little extra cash, so that's not anything to think about too much. But anyway, later that night, one of her sisters, texted her asking what her plans were for the weekend because the 30th was a Wednesday and that upcoming weekend was homecoming weekend. So she wanted to know what she had going on. But all she replied back was nothing. And then after this, at 9:03 p.m., Alexis shared a post on Instagram, and at 9:24, she responded with some laughing emojis to a group Instagram DM. Following that, though, the only person who people believed to have seen or heard from her again was her roommate and best friend, Jordyn Jones. Jordyn and Alexis had met their freshman year, and from that point on, the girls were considered to be two peas in a pod. They had their whole college experience together and really did almost everything together. Jordyn was even invited to come and spend Thanksgiving and Easter with Alexis's family. If that gives you an idea of how close they were, they spent holidays together. I mean, they're very, very, very close friends. So when it came to their senior year, it was a no-brainer that they would, of course, be roommates. And on the night of October 30th, around 11:30 p.m., we know based on CCTV footage that Jordyn drove Alexis to a nearby liquor store where she bought a bottle of Jose Cuervo. After this, though, there was no sign of her anywhere. On October 31st, Halloween, nobody in her family could get a hold of her, which was strange because she usually spoke to at least one person in her family every day. And then on November 1st, she missed class. And then later on, she also missed work, not to mention the fact that calls to her phone were going straight to voicemail. And that was even more out of character for her. So because of that, her family decided that they needed to go ahead and report her missing. So when investigators first spoke with Jordyn, that's when they learned about that liquor store visit on the night of Wednesday the 30th. And that's also when they learned that, according to Jordyn, Alexis was gone by the time she woke up. She told them that after she drove her to buy the tequila, they went back to their apartment, and an hour or so later was when she said she went to bed. Now, Alexis had recently started sleeping in the living room, which is something that I'm going to have to come back to and explain here shortly, but just remember that for now, okay? So Jordyn last saw her in the living room. Now, her phone, her ID, her credit card, all of those things were no longer in the apartment. Jordyn also mentioned to investigators that when she left for classes that day, she noticed that the front door of the apartment was locked, suggesting that Alexis must have locked it when she left, which is something to remember. So with that, the search for Alexis was in full swing, and people really did come together in an effort to find her. #Let'sFindLex was being posted all over social media, and search teams were canvassing the neighborhood and wooded areas nearby. And it sounds like investigators hadn't ruled out the possibility that she left on her own, but they were definitely looking into this with the possibility that foul play could have taken place. And considering that Alexis was a young Black woman, I am grateful to hear that they listened to her family's concerns and took her disappearance seriously right off the bat.
Thank you all for coming. This is a very difficult moment for the family of Alexis Crawford, who has been missing since Wednesday evening and somewhere between Wednesday evening and early Thursday morning. Alexis is a 21-year-old student at Clark Atlanta University, which is a member of the Atlanta University Center, the largest consortium of African American colleges and universities in the country. A young lady who's got her whole life ahead of her from Athens, Georgia. She graduated from Clark Central High School in Athens and is the daughter of two very loving parents and a member of a very large family. She has 4 sisters and 5 brothers, most of whom stand with us here today. Alexis is somebody that this family loves and cares very much for, and they are praying for her return. But we are here today to ask the people of Atlanta to come forward with help and information that could lead to Alexis's return to her family. We met earlier today with the Clark Atlanta Police Department's Chief of Police, Chief Deborah Williams, and she assured this family that the Clark Atlanta Police Department would do everything it could to bring this young lady home to her family. And we just finished a meeting with the senior leadership here in the Atlanta Police Department, who also assured this family that as the lead investigative agency, they would do all that they could. And the family and I have great confidence in the men and women that are looking for Miss Crawford. And we have every reason to believe that Atlanta Police will get to the bottom of what happened to her. The first person that I would ask to speak is Mr. Bobby Wright, who is Miss Crawford's father, who drove up from Athens and has made the determination he's not leaving this city until his baby is found. Mr. Crawford.
Baby, I love you, baby. Let's come home. Come home, baby. Come home. I love you. Just come home. I'm not gonna leave until you get home.
It's a hard time for our family. And if Lexi, she's watching, I just want you to know you always been my role model. You're my strength, my aspirations in life. And I just want you to come home and be safe. And I hope God's walking with you. And please prevent any evil that comes her way. And we're here for you. I love you, Alexis, and miss you.
Among their early efforts, the Atlanta Police Department looked into Alexis's phone and bank records to see if something there would maybe point to what happened. But if anything, that confirmed that she was not missing on purpose. It turns out that her phone had been shut off and there was no activity on her credit card. And of course, for a 21-year-old to not be on her phone or accessing her money, yeah, that's going to stand out to people. That is alarming. But this also could have meant that she was in some kind of accident, maybe. However, nobody matching her description had been brought into any of the nearby hospitals or anything like that. And of course, that leaves foul play as the only option that really made sense, because Alexis was not the type to just disappear on her own. And pretty soon, they made a discovery that added to their concern. It turns out 3 days before she disappeared, she had gone to the hospital. Specifically, she went to Grady Health Hospital to get a rape kit done after she said that Jordyn's boyfriend, Barron Brantely, had sexually assaulted her. On October 27th, Alexis reported that after drinking in her apartment with Jordyn and Barron, he came onto her in a way that made her feel uncomfortable. Now, apparently, Barron said that he thought that she was Jordyn, but I'm not sure I believe that, because after he tried kissing and touching her, he followed her into her bedroom where she had gone to try and get away from him. And then after that, she went into her bathroom to try and create even more distance, but Barron followed her in there as well. And I will warn you, this is disturbing. But after that, Alexis had passed out, and the next thing that she remembered was waking up and seeing her ripped underwear on the bathroom floor and Barron standing there partially clothed. Now, Jordyn was banging on the bathroom door, and I'm guessing that's what sort of brought Alexis back to consciousness, possibly. And to add to how fucked up all of that was, Jordyn later said that when Barron finally opened up the door, the first words out of his mouth were, "I didn't touch her. I didn't rape her." Yet we know that he did, because the rape kit confirmed that his DNA, his semen, was inside of her. And then after that, according to Jordyn, he grabbed her keys and the two of them got into an argument in the parking garage before he ultimately took off in her car. And this just pisses me off so much. But Jordyn did call 911, and you would think, oh, that's good to hear. But at no point when she called did she mention the fact that her boyfriend had just assaulted her friend. No. She called them because she was reporting the fact that he, who she described as her ex-boyfriend, had stolen her car, because that was the biggest issue for her at that time, apparently.
Atlanta 911, operator 7378. What's the address of the emergency?
McDaniel Street.
What's the street name?
McDaniel Street.
What's the apartment number? You need police, fire, EMS.
Yes, because my ex-boyfriend just stole my car. He took my keys and I'm about to.
What kind of car you got?
A 2017 red Chevy Cruze.
You know your tag number?
No. 1 second.
It's okay. You don't have to have it right now as long as you have it when the officers get there, okay?
Okay.
What's your name?
Jordyn Jones.
All right, Miss Jones.
Jordyn.
This there a gate code.
Open.
All right. We'll get an office out for you.
And it's Michigan plate.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we do know that eventually the police were called in regards to what that sick fuck did to her, because at some point in the night, Jordyn called this girl named Brittany, who has been described as sort of a mentor to her, and she came over to her apartment. And then around 1 a.m., after learning what had happened from Alexis, she was the one who called 911. I don't have access to that audio, but that's when the first report was made about assault. And then after that, we know that Alexis went to the hospital. Now, here's where things get even more twisted. Despite her roommate and best friend just having been assaulted by her boyfriend, investigators learned that Jordyn snuck Barron back into the apartment. It turns out that he had been staying in her room for a few days without Alexis knowing. And remember how I mentioned that she had been sleeping in the living room? Well, that was because of the assault. It was too traumatizing for her to be back in her room where it happened, which makes total sense. But how fucked up is that? The entire time where she's trying to take care of herself and do what she needs to do by sleeping in the living room, she's just a few feet from her attacker the whole time. I just cannot believe that. That is so disgusting. And it gets even worse because there were times where Jordyn would go to class and Barron would stay in her room and Alexis would be home. So there were times where they were alone in the apartment together and she had no idea. And mind you, we know all of this information because it's all things that she has admitted to, because investigators reached out to her on November 6th after searching their apartment, but she was back home in Michigan at the time. She did agree to come into the station on Friday the 8th when she was back in town though, and that's where she explained everything from the liquor store visit on the 30th to hiding Barron in her room. She also admitted that when Alexis went missing, that the two of them weren't on speaking terms, but despite that, she was adamant that she didn't have anything to do with her disappearance, which was sadly a huge load of shit, which I'm sure you've already figured out by now, and investigators already knew that as well. By the time that they had brought Jordyn in to speak with her, they had already obtained CCTV footage from the parking garage of their apartment complex, and on that footage, they could see that at 3:11 a.m., Jordyn and Barron backed her car up to the door that leads to the units, and they proceeded to lift a heavy plastic bin into the trunk. Then at 3:18 a.m., they left the parking garage and returned less than an hour later at 4:09 a.m. And investigators believe that this was the two of them moving Alexis's body. Of course, this was in clear contradiction of Jordyn's story because she said that she never left her apartment that night. So they decided to confront her with the footage, hoping that she would tell them more. And she certainly did. After she couldn't deny it any longer, Jordyn finally admitted that she and Barron murdered Alexis in their apartment that night. She confessed that on the night of October 30th, after going to the liquor store, they had gotten into a physical altercation over something, and she couldn't remember what it was over because they had been drinking. But during the fight, Barron appeared from her bedroom and he began to choke Alexis. And investigators later learned in Barron's confession that while he was choking her, Jordyn grabbed a trash bag and put it over her head. However, this was not something that Jordyn herself admitted to doing. Either way, though, they both likely and allegedly, I must say, took part in her murder, which is just so horrific to think about. I mean, my God, this girl had been in her home with her family on Thanksgiving and Easter. They had been friends for years, and she allegedly helped kill her. And this next part just gives me chills. It is so gut-wrenching, but they said that they knew that she was dying because she was gasping for breath, of course, and she was making, quote, sounds of agony. But after they confessed to all of this, Jordyn agreed to take them to Alexis's body. She, her dad, investigators all got into the car and began driving around to different parks where Jordyn said that she thought her body might be. And I'm not sure if she was stalling or truly forgot, which is possible because it sounds like she was fucked up. But I guess they went to a few places before they finally found her. And when they did find her, it was brutal. Her severely decomposed body was found at Exchange Park in DeKalb County. They had thrown that plastic bin that they put her in over a hill, and in doing so, her body had fallen out and she was left on the ground to further succumb to the elements. And it was that same day, November 8th, when the discovery was made, and an autopsy would later confirm that her cause of death was, in fact, asphyxiation.
We continue to follow breaking news. A missing Clark Atlanta student has been found dead. Police say her roommate and boyfriend now are accused of killing her, one of them leading police to the body in a DeKalb County park. Police holding a news conference about an hour and a half ago.
1 week ago, on Friday, November 1st, the Atlanta Police Department took a missing persons report for Clark Atlanta University student Alexis Crawford, age 21. Today, Alexis's body was found in a park in DeKalb County off of Columbia Drive. Our investigators were led to the location by one of the suspects. As a result, our investigators are working on securing arrest warrants for 2 individuals. Jordyn Jones, who's a female, age 21, and Barron Brantely, who is a male, age 21. Jordyn had been Alexis's friend and her roommate. While a motive has not been clearly established, the department did take a police report from Alexis Crawford on October 27th, and this is a few days prior to her being reported missing. In this report, Alexis described unwanted kissing and touching from Barron Brantely. Barron, who is the boyfriend of Jordyn Jones. Jordyn Jones, who is Alexis's roommate and friend. The case has come to one of the saddest conclusions possible and has been absolutely heartbreaking.
Following the news of this discovery, arrest warrants were obtained and both suspects were taken into custody. And that's when Barron ultimately made his confession. And he added details like the one about the trash bag that they didn't hear in Jordyn's version. He also told them that he cleaned up spots of blood in the apartment, which investigators corroborated during their second search of the house. Using luminol testing, they found 5 or 6 different blood spots that appeared to have been cleaned up. There was also a sponge in the kitchen sink with blood and hair on it. And during their first search of the apartment, they had found a single drop of blood in Jordyn's sink, although I can't say for certain if it was related. I will say I'm not totally sure where that blood came from because of course, she was asphyxiated, and normally there's not blood involved in that, but maybe something happened during that physical fight between Alexis and Jordyn. That's probably where it came from. But either way, the blood in the apartment did match Barron's story. And this next part pisses me off so much. Investigators learned that on Halloween, less than 24 hours after dumping Alexis's body, the two of them went to a Halloween party as if nothing happened. Went to a Halloween party. You know, there's something about people that can do stuff like this and then just go on and there's been plenty of cases, right, where we've talked about people who go on and either go to work or fucking go to a party after killing someone. And I just don't know how you would even function after seeing something so horrific, after doing something so horrific. I think it just takes, I don't want to say special, it takes a evil type of person to be able to go about your life, especially in a way where you're going on to a Halloween party. It just blows my mind. Turns out they had shut off her phone just before 3 a.m. and that's why calls were going to voicemail. And Jordyn even had the nerve to pretend to be worried. She was texting her all concerned and even posted on social media about her disappearance. One story reads, "Thank you to everyone that isn't being negative in my DMs. This is obviously a difficult time for me right now, and I just feel helpless. My heart is really hurting right now. The fact that y'all are telling everybody to blow up my DMs is beyond childish. How about y'all put that same energy y'all putting in to harass me into finding my friend?" You sick bitch. How can you type that out? You're actually concerned about yourself in this moment? God, at least a somewhat normal person just wouldn't post anything, wouldn't say anything. How does she actually type this out when she knows exactly what happened? She did it, allegedly. But no, she wants to beef with people who are clearly starting to accuse her on Instagram. Okay, that makes sense. And you guys, that is not all, because it turns out that Jordyn texted some friend of hers after Alexis went missing, asking if she would lie and say that she was borrowing that plastic bin. Apparently, it belonged to Jordyn's parents who are going to be in town that weekend, and I guess she thought maybe they would ask where it was, and she wanted this friend to pretend that she had it so her parents didn't get sus. And of course, that's not necessarily a major detail of this case, but it definitely points to her trying to cover her tracks. And another thing that investigators found, not that they needed the proof, was Alexis's apartment key. Because if you remember, Jordyn had previously mentioned that the door to their apartment was locked when she woke up on the 31st. But the key was found in her apartment, and Alexis, of course, couldn't have locked the door anyway because we know that she had been killed by this point. I mean, the evidence just speaks for itself. And can you just imagine for a second what her family must have been feeling like to try and wrap their heads around the fact that Alexis had been senselessly murdered for absolutely no reason. It was completely shocking to them. She's about to go out in the world and really start her life, and now she's dead. And not only do they have to try and comprehend that, but they have to comprehend that it was her own friend who was part of this, who betrayed her, someone that they had in their home, who they trusted. And I know, allegedly, gotta keep saying that, but oh my God. At the very least, though, I'm glad that the judge saw them for the threat that they are and denied them bond. There have been a few times since their arrest that hearings were held to determine if they'd be eligible for it, but luckily, in every one of those instances, it ended up being ruled against. Jordyn's attorney tried to argue that because she didn't have a record, she should be eligible, but the Fulton County District Attorney pointed out some key things. For starters, Jordyn was on probation for a DUI at the time of the murder, so she did in fact have a record. It also came out that she had contacted Alexis's family in the week that she was still considered missing, and get this, you guys, she called them and told them that no DNA was found in the rape kit, which of course was a complete and total lie. And the DA also pointed out that right after Alexis disappeared, Jordyn started taking steps to drop out of school and was making plans to move back home to Michigan, therefore making her a flight risk. So yeah, bond was denied for her, thankfully, and also for Barron, who at 21 years old already had an extensive record. He had already been booked into the Fulton County Jail 5 times in 2 years, so he was no stranger to the system. Previously, he faced charges like fleeing a police officer, family violence, and even cruelty to children in the 3rd degree. But this time, both he and Jordyn were facing more serious charges, including murder, felony murder, 2 counts of that, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and concealing the death of another. Barron also had an extra charge for aggravated sodomy. It's a no-brainer to me that these 2 dummies had their bond denied, as they should, and Alexis's mom, Tammy, has been very clear that the thought of these 2 ever being released is something that absolutely terrifies her. And it's so understandable. I think anyone in her situation would feel that way. And she feels, this way so much that if they were to ever be released, she said that she wouldn't even feel comfortable having any of her children remain in school in Atlanta anymore. She said if they got bail, it would be a slap in the face. And I totally agree. I mean, there's just no reason for it. So for now, I'm glad that that is not on the table anymore. Now, the death penalty is also off the table. In February of 2020, the district attorney announced that they would not be seeking it for the crimes committed against Alexis. And that same month, both Jordyn and Barron pleaded not guilty to the charges. And considering that the 2 of them both made confessions, this definitely shocked me, but it turns out that at least for Barron, that confession won't actually be admissible in court because a judge ruled in 2023 that prosecutors can't use his confession because he was under the influence of drugs when it was given. And because of that, they don't think he was capable of, quote, intelligently waiving his Miranda rights. And as for Jordyn's confession, I believe they're still going to be able to use that in court, at least to my understanding, they should be able to. God, I hope so. And for clarity, I'm sure most of you know this, but there will be 2 trials in this case, 1 for each of them. Evidence-wise, I do think that prosecutors have quite a bit to work with, which is great. And they actually had a really big win in April of 2025. Long story short, there were apparently some jailhouse calls that the court initially ruled were inadmissible, but they fought that ruling and they won, and it actually went to the Georgia Supreme Court, who ended up reversing the decision, which means that these calls can and will be used, which I was very happy to hear. And I'm not sure what the contents of the calls are, but I know prosecutors did say that it included incriminating statements made by Barron, which is not shocking. The guy's a total idiot, and so I'm sure he said something that really is going to get him into even more trouble than he's already in. And another note, they are also seeking to include incriminating messages between Jordyn and Barron as well. Apparently, there are 93 pages of Instagram DMs between these two boneheads where they were allegedly conspiring to hide her body, and they talked about how they were going to handle being questioned by the police. And I'm not sure if there's been a ruling on that evidence yet, but wow. I think they probably thought that if it was on Instagram, if it was on social media, then they were being more secretive than if they did this over text. But one of the biggest battles that they have to win, one of the biggest things that they need is for the evidence of sexual assault to be granted admissible, because Alexis's sexual assault is ultimately going to be the proposed motive in this case. Prosecutors believe that she was killed as a result of filing that report against Barron. And I'm hoping for the best here. It is absolutely crucial that they can include this in their case. And I'll be honest, it's been tricky to track down what exactly is going on with that at this point in time. In May of 2025, a source reported that a judge ruled that evidence could be used. However, in September of 2025, another source said that a judge had ruled against it. I really hope that that second source is wrong, but I'm not sure. My guess is that this is one of many things that has delayed either of these trials from starting. COVID definitely slowed things down, but since then it's just been one thing after another. And from my research, it sounds like there are a ton of trials that are on hold in this county. Although very recently, an article did come out saying that 2026 is going to be the year that the trial date gets set. So I'm hoping that justice is just on the horizon. For Alexis's sake and the sake of her loved ones, it is long overdue. I mean, her friends, her family, her whole community and classmates have been mourning her death for over 6 years now. And I think we can all agree that it is beyond time for justice to be served. The impact that her murder has had on everyone is just indescribable, really. Her university had to bring grief counselors to the campus to help students through this, and her family, God, they lost everything. Alexis meant the world to her parents and her siblings, and things will forever be different. Her funeral was held on November 16th, just a week after her body was found, and the sheer turnout of people who came just speaks volumes about the kind of woman that she was and the number of lives that she touched. Friends and family spoke fondly of their favorite memories with Alexis, and prayers were offered to everyone mourning this extremely painful loss. And while it was, of course, a very sad event, they also made a point to emphasize that they wanted the day to be about celebrating her life at the same time, celebrating the good, the accomplishments, the joy, all of the ways that Alexis was loved and showed love in her 21 years of life. Like I said, it's been more than 6 years since she was killed, and allegedly by someone who she truly trusted. And I cannot imagine what the end of her life was like. The thoughts that had to be going through her head, it is, oh my God, it is so hard to even think about what that would have been like. And I'm just heartbroken that her family has to have those thoughts as well. It's been far, far too long without justice, and I hope that I'm able to provide you all with an update soon that she got it and that these sick individuals who are responsible for her murder get what they deserve. That is unfortunately all I have for you guys on Alexis Crawford's case at this time. Her story is definitely not over. I will be back next week to discuss another case, but until then, stay safe out there.